Yes, my people, welcome back to AFTV. Welcome back to another live show. Joined by me, Cecil, and I got Sheroy with me. What's going on, Sheroy?
So I think it's our first live together, you know?
I think it is actually.
I think it is.
I think we've done fan cams and stuff. We've done a show I think before, but yeah, an actual live together. We haven't really done, but how I like to do them, it's a lot of audience interaction, people listening and getting involved in the comments, and also just all the main talking topics around Arsenal now. There is a lot to discuss. I want to be hearing your opinion on a lot of things because I love the way you articulate things when it comes to Arsenal. I think for me, you're one of my favourites to listen to. So we'll get into some of your thoughts and feelings on certain things. But we're going to run through the news to begin with of the day, just to give everyone an update. Recent thing that came on, to start with, it came on the website today, was about the artwork. So obviously around the Emirates Stadium, they have the legendary wrap. There was obviously conversation of it being changed through during the World Cup. And I believe they have started work on it, Sheroy. So the legendary wrap is being taken down. I'm going to read it from the segment from the website, and then we're going to kind of discuss what we would like to see that could potentially go in there, because there's been a few things that have been discussed, and I would like to hear what you'd like to see around the Emirates Stadium, whether it's a photo of yourself or Arsenal players, but we'll get into that. But anyway, let me read this statement quickly. So, Arsenal artwork change at the Emirates with the commitment, support and input of the Arsenal family. We're now very close to finalising 8 pieces of art that are true to who we are and what we are and who we represent as a club. We're excited to launch the new artwork in January, and many supporters may have noticed as the World Cup brings a break in our men's fixtures, we've already started to remove the existing art. While this means the stadium will be bare for a few weeks, we hope you'll all agree it will be worth the wait. So they're starting works now. I get the train home, so I will have a look over to see what they've taken down so far. But if not, I'm definitely going to go tomorrow and have a look if they really have taken down the legendary wrap, because speaking to Lee Judges, he's quite upset that that's going. But for us as a fan base, and for you, what would you like to see? I'm going to give you just one thing that they mentioned about having up there was an LED screen round with the badge still there, but the LED screen that lights up, and you can basically have images of I don't know, I guess famous moments or players. Instead of the wrap, they can change it. It's customizable. Now reading this, I believe that must have changed, because they're saying about 8 pieces of art. So I don't know. What do you think it might be? What would you like to see? And people in the comments, I'd love to know what you guys would like to see.
You know, I would love to see something to do with Arsenal in the community.
Oh.
And that might be what the screen's for, because you can change that and update it. Because one thing, I know that there might be a lot of international fans who haven't had the benefit of coming to the Emirates, but where the Emirates is situated, it's in the heart of a bit of North London, where you've got this wonderful, multi-million, billion-pound structure or whatever it is.
Yep.
But the surrounding areas are still in massive need of investment.
Facts.
Right, and there's so much work that Arsenal does in the community, but there's also so many aspiring kids who also look up at that stadium and think there's a way out.
Yeah.
So I would love for them to have something community-based there, and they may well go that way. But also, man, look, symbolically, I know that moving to the Emirates was meant to be when we really kick-started and we started competing with these big clubs and all of that. But for me, the Emirates era has brought some of the more difficult times as an Arsenal fan.
I agree.
So in many ways, it's almost symbolic for me, because I feel like we're now entering another era within the Emirates era, where things are looking a bit better.
Oh, so I'm getting goosebumps. See, sure, it's not. I don't.
That's what I'm saying. So it's a wonderful time for not only the squad to be refreshed, the manager to be refreshed, the optimism in the fan base to be refreshed, but that to be reflected in the stadium. I think the timing of that is wonderful.
Yeah,
and the heritage of the club is something that I think was already there with the wrap. To be honest, they did encapsulate that, but we're creating new heritage now, depending on what the contract situations are. You've got people, in my opinion, world icons like Bukayo Saka, for example.
Yep.
Look at the love he gets, not just in England but worldwide.
Oh, globally.
Players like that could also make an appearance on the stadium. Some might say it's a bit early.
No, I think Bukayo Saka's is justified. I know and there will be people saying, "Well, slow down." Like he's not a world-class player, but for me, he's done so much in his Arsenal shirt. For me, I think he should be recognising that. And like you said, he is globally known. And even when I speak with, when we've done the tours or when we've gone to some of the Europa League games, I spoke to some of the Arsenal staff, and they say he's one of the most protected players, which it shows it in itself, like how important he is. I think he's a superb talent, and you're right. I think he does grant himself a position on potentially this new artwork. I don't know what they're going to go with. I mean, I see a lot of people in the comments saying they would want the screens. They would have preferred the screens, but I think artwork's also something that, it holds a certain sense of value. I understand they can swap it when they have the LED screens, you can put it to whatever you want. But I like artwork, and I like the fact that, it will stand out regardless. And that legendary wrap is still quite poignant. Like, I get the train to work every day, and I see it on my train journey, and so do many other people, probably aren't even Arsenal fans. And like you said, it's for the community looking at that, they aspire to kind of be in that stadium, and yeah, regardless if it's LED screens or not, I think the artwork will be selected and appropriate for the Emirates, the new redesign, shall we say. And it's you're right, I think it's the perfect time. I think, we haven't won it, it's hard, isn't it, because we haven't won anything yet.
Yeah.
But where we're at, and what the mood is around the club and whatnot, and what we've witnessed so far this season, timing is very good, because like you just said, I think it is the new era of the Emirates era. I think that what they've stuck with Mikel Arteta and what he's done for this club, and we're going to get into being first and the decisions he's made later on in the show. But I think you're right. I think it's the right time. It'd be interesting to see how they encapsulate that, though, because again, they can't get ahead of themselves. We haven't actually won anything, but we are in good stead. So like, there is players like Bukayo Saka, Martinelli, even Saliba, I think is a shout to be a really top player for Arsenal, as long as he stays and gets that contract signed. So interesting, but I think you're right. It's a new era of the Emirates era, and I'm going to be intrigued to see what they go with when it comes to the redesign of the Emirates. It'll be very interesting. We are going to get into the Dubai Super Cup during the World Cup. So this is what they've named it. Arsenal set to, for the Dubai Super Cup. So if you guys don't know, obviously the World Cup is happening. The players that aren't going to the World Cup will feature for Arsenal. And I'm going to read the statement again off the website. It says the squad will travel to Dubai. This is during the World Cup, where they'll play 2 fixtures against top European opposition at the Al Maktoum Stadium. I hope I pronounced that right. But it's a stadium in Dubai.
I think it's the Al Maktoum Stadium.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much.
It's all good. It's all good.
Two fixtures in the same stadium on Thursday, the 8th of December. Arsenal versus Lyon at 7:30 kickoff. That's here. That's local time. Sorry. And then a Tuesday, the 13th of December. Arsenal versus AC Milan. A 6 o'clock kickoff there, local time. So Arsenal versus Lyon you'll be seeing the return of Lacazette as well, potentially. No, you probably will see him play against a second string Arsenal side. But there's a lot to discuss on this topic, this Super Cup, that you're allowed to go buy tickets for. I believe they're selling tickets on the website, and I believe they will be streamed. I read that on the website as well. But I'm going to read just a little bit more information on it, reflecting on why Dubai was selected. Arteta says it's an easy trip, as one of the biggest sponsors we have is in Emirates. Plus we've been there before and know the facilities, and it's a really good environment to work. The weather is spectacular, and then the World Cup is so close, so for any player that is around there, it's so easy to get them back straight away. I think it ticks all boxes that we need. So again, we're going to discuss this. He also goes on, to say we need good preparation mentally and physically to be ready for the huge demands that the second part of the season is going to bring to the team. We have 2 great games against Lyon and Milan, and we're really looking forward to it. They're 2 big clubs, and it will be tough competition. And for us, it's great to test to see where we are. This opens up a load of conversation. So that's what's going to be happening in Dubai. It's a Super Cup. There's also going to be a friendly against Barcelona at the Emirates. That's kind of being negotiated. It hasn't been fully confirmed yet, but it's likely it's going to happen. And then lastly, there'll be a game against Watford behind closed doors at London Colney. But we're going to focus on the 2 games there. Now, Sheroy, a chance really for the fringe players to kind of get an opportunity to play. I know you wanted to just kind of discuss how close it is to Qatar, so players can probably return back if they get knocked out early stages. We can go through some of the players that have gone into the World Cup. There's 10 players in total. That is Saka, Ramsdale, Tomiyasu, Partey, Saliba, Jesus, Martinelli, Matt Turner, Xhaka and Ben White. So we'll go through who we think is going to play. But the Dubai Super Cup, a good thing for Arsenal, something needed. I mean, some fringe players will definitely be needing to keep them ticking themselves over for that return. Yeah,
definitely. I mean, look, there's all those players that you named going to the tournament, but there are going to be a core group that aren't going.
Yeah.
Right, and you don't want them to get stale. I'm sure they'll get a period of rest and recovery, but when they're in Dubai, they do need to stay just as sharp, because who's to say that the players that come back from the World Cup aren't going to get granted a break by the club when they come back before they jump back into training, right? So you want to keep them sharp. They might even have to be called upon for that. Is it the Brighton game?
Yep. The first game back would be the West Ham
before that,
and then Brighton. Yeah.
So they may even be called up for the West Ham game. But we were talking about this earlier because of the timing of that. I think the people that don't progress from the initial stage of the World Cup, they could be with the rest of the team within an hour.
Yeah.
You know, because
that close. Yeah.
Exactly. Because I think that whole region, if I'm not mistaken, Qatar's no bigger than Manchester.
You're correct.
So they could very easily get to Dubai and link up with the team, and Arteta will not want anything to interrupt the rhythm that we have now.
Yeah.
Because I think he would have been he would have been cursing the timing of this World Cup because of the form that we're in. There are lots of other clubs that are around us that would have been like, "Whoa, we need that break.
Yeah.
We need that break. We need to regroup. We need people to come back from injury, whatever it might be." We were not in that position. So he will need to do absolutely everything he can to make sure that he preserves the mentality and the momentum that we have. And that for me is a great way of going about it.
I agree. I very much agree. So you spoke about that, the break there, and some players of teams being like, "Oh, we needed this." For us, Sheroy, you as a fan, because we looked at both ways. For you as a fan, are you happy with, a Winter World Cup, the break? Maybe before we wouldn't have known where we would have been before this World Cup, but now we're sitting top of the league. What's your thoughts as a fan, firstly, about this Winter World Cup? Is the break a good thing for you, or you're a fan that, I don't really care about the World Cup, I just wish Arsenal continued and, the World Cup was in summer like it always is?
Yeah, I prefer the World Cup to be in the summer, one, because it doesn't interrupt the season.
Yep, true.
Regardless of how it's going, I don't want the season to be interrupted. And also, look, I mean, traditionally, growing up, I know this sounds silly and I know humans don't really like change, but I'm used to summer tournaments.
Yeah.
That's what I'm used to. That's part of how special it is. That's part of how it resonates with me, So
it becomes part of football culture as well for a fan, the summer, drinks out, beer gardens, and I don't really drink alcohol, but I understand that especially for when the Euros happened, that was the culture. People going to pubs, taking days off work and whatnot, and you're out in the sun and you're watching your team play and whatnot, and you can go out after. Now, obviously, it's winter, it's different. You might be inside watching games, you might be going to, I get that. So as a fan, so that is for you, you're used to the summer World Cups. That's what you'd obviously prefer to see. Yeah. I get that. But now let's look at it from a club point of view. If you were, we can go from different levels. You can go from as manager, as a player. As a player, how would you assess it if you're going into a Winter World Cup? Let's go from, if you are going to World Cup, we'll do it from, and people listen, you get involved in this as well. What would you feel like if you weren't going? So let's go from, if you were going to the World Cup, because there's a lot of factors. During the summer World Cups, normally, you get a bit of break before you go into it. You have a bit of a camp. This one, I don't really know much of a camp happening for this Winter World Cup. I think it's literally next week they start. So you're going straight into a World Cup off the back of how you've been playing in the season. That's your pre-tournament, basically. So yeah, as a player, how do you think they're feeling, for this Winter World Cup?
You know what, you only have to look at the reaction of some of our players who didn't think they were going to get called up and did get called up. I mean, you look at Martinelli's reaction, getting called up. I don't think that boy cares what season it is.
Yeah,
he's getting called up to play for his country in the biggest world tournament there is, right? So players, I think, obviously, this is the pinnacle for them. I know there will be some that say, well, actually, a Champions League final will perhaps mean more. And you're an ex-player, so you could probably attest to this better than I can. But for me, I just get the feeling that the World Cup is the be-all and end-all for a lot of these players.
Do you think it's more... I wanted to ask this question. I'm so glad you said that because I didn't know how I was going to drop it. But I'm glad you brought up. Do you think it means more to I don't know, I guess the South Americans or the more further afield countries than it does for England? I know that this is a really objective question, but yes, I've seen the post because I actually researched it. I saw the post from Bukayo Saka on Twitter. I saw Ramsdale's post. I saw all those players, but I didn't see one from Ben White. And I know, listen,
Ben White doesn't care about anything.
This is the thing, but
Ben White doesn't.
This is why I need to ask the question.
Did you see the tracksuit he arrived in?
No.
The whole England team arrive in their England tracksuits. Ben White just comes in his designer tracksuit.
This is what I'm saying.
He's
so bov.
Until he's at work, he is not bothered about football.
That's what I'm saying. And he doesn't come from a footballing family. He says his family never liked football. He never really knew about the history of Arsenal and whatnot. You mentioned that in an interview, but he seems very bov. And I'm not saying the players don't care about getting called up, because of course they do. But like you said, when you speak about Martinelli recently did an interview and he cried for an hour. I've watched it. He said, when I got the phone call, he was in tears. I couldn't even ring his family to tell them. He had to wait an hour full on crying.
Jesus said something very similar.
He said when he first got same, yeah, exactly. So listen, people are going to react in different ways, but it's very, what do you think in that sort of sense? Do you think it means more than, or do you think it's the same, but they just show it in different ways?
I think it comes down to the individual, and I can't speak for all of the England team or all of the Brazil team, but if I'm looking at Martinelli as one example, all right? Listening to Martinelli's interviews about where he came from, the way he lived as a child, this is a kid, he's coming from basically abject poverty. Yeah? No way out. And I don't know if you've been to Brazil, but when you go to Brazil, there are these massive sort of landmarks of Jesus Christ the Redeemer, for example, and people look up at that, and that is hope. And football is one of those things in countries like that is hope. So for him to even make it as a professional footballer, That's why he expresses so much love for Arsenal.
Yeah,
He can't think of anything.
That's true.
That's better, right? He's so wonderfully grateful to be at Arsenal and he loves it. And now he's playing for his country. So it's not necessarily that it means more to people from a particular region, but when you're coming from the circumstances that some of these players are coming from,
That's a great way to put it.
It increases tenfold in importance, right?
Yeah.
But again, look, you can speak to Harry Kane, you can speak to Bukayo Saka, you can speak to a lot of these players. It means the world to them too.
Yeah.
They're just coming from a slightly different place.
That's a great point. I think it's from where you kind of grown up from, and yeah, like you're coming from there, different levels of. They might have come from not poverty, but come from a hard upbringing. But Martinelli, like you said, in South, like Brazil especially, it's really difficult. You have nothing. This is a massive way out, and we need to listen to Martinelli speak about the money and. When it comes to football, he sends all his money back to his family. He doesn't care. Even in that interview recently, when they said about son new contract, he goes, "Just give me a pen." Like he doesn't care about what the numbers are and all that.
There's that, and you look at England. I mean, in my lifetime, England have won a Rugby World Cup. England just won the T20 in cricket. There are English golfers. There are so many sports over here. Obviously, football's the biggest, but we have a lot of sports that we would consider national sports. What's the sport when you go to Brazil?
It's football.
Yeah. What's the sport when you go to Spain?
I suppose it's football as well, really, isn't it?
And I could rattle off a few countries like that where that is the sport.
Yeah.
So to make it to the pinnacle of that sport means you've basically made it to the pinnacle of sport.
Yeah, and I think that's he does mention that as well. He said that's like the highest achievement is representing your country or your nation, especially for Brazil. It's the highest achievement you can make, especially after it always in that interview. It always goes back to the legends that have wore the Brazil top and represented the country in football. So it's To be fair, thank you. You've gave me clarity to that question because I was thinking about it. I was like, ooh, because some players, and I think I'm just going to kind of Ben White. He hasn't really reacted to me called up, which is not good because obviously I can't just base it one player. But I was very just obscured, thinking, wow, like, it means so much. When Martinelli, I heard he cry for an hour. Like, of course, listen, I've never been called up for my nation, but I remember just being called up into the first team for like a big game or getting a phone call from the manager saying you're in when you're a young player, and that is like,
bro, I feel like that when Turkish calls me for the supporters club. When I get the whole of the supporters club, I'm like, I'm in. Come on.
Yes, it's a big achievement. No, I hear that massively. So, but that's what it's like when you get the phone call from the manager. Like, it's a big thing. Especially, I remember getting called up and saying I'm traveling, and I was like, oh my god. So I couldn't even fathom the emotion you must get for representing your country. But definitely for when you've come from literally nothing and then get into that, it must be massive for them. Going back to just the Super, is it called? It's the Super. What do they call it? The Dubai Super Cup. Yeah, the Dubai Super Cup. When I hear Super in something,
I know.
It just gives me like,
I know.
Oh, Super League. I don't like it. I don't like it. But it is what it is. Listen, fair play. It's Dubai. It's Dubai. Things are glossy. So let's go to just the thoughts on this competition. Like, think about it. I spoke about the players that are the second string team at Arsenal, and they feature mainly in the Europa League, some of the group stages early on, and then the football cup, the Football League Cup, right? And I remember speaking to someone, they were like, listen, players like Rob Holding are going to be angry that they went out to Brighton because this is their only opportunity to kind of feature for Arsenal. Yes, they might get thrown on in the last 10, 20 minutes, maybe going on in the season, but this is a big opportunity for them to shine and showcase their talent. Now, I know this is just a cup that's kind of been fabricated to keep you ticking over, but there is still some pressure on these players playing this competition. The only reason I say it is because we're coming up to a January window where every Arsenal fan is speaking about we need to strengthen.
That's every window.
Very true. But to maintain this run and this charge for the Premier League title, we have to strengthen. So, and not that they're forgetting about the fringe players, but no one's really looking at the Lokongas, the Rob Holdings, and saying, well, we don't really need to strengthen because we have those players. So for them, is it another opportunity to keep themselves ticking over for Arsenal when they get back into the league? Is it another opportunity for them to, prove to Arteta, come on, like, I can still feature in this side and add quality? Or is it maybe an opportunity to say, well, it may be a nothing game, but like I said, I've still got quality, and maybe I might be looking for a move to another club. What do you think it means for those sort of players?
All right, tell me, just be honest with me if I'm being idealistic here.
Go on.
All right. But I remember that scene in All or Nothing where Arteta is looking at the squad and saying, you know what? There are a lot of you that have only had minutes at the end of games, or you've only played in ancillary competitions, but I can see you all smiling because of the success of the team, and they are genuine smiles, and good things happen to good people.
Yep.
And I firmly believe that most, if not all, of the personalities that don't feel that way are out of the door now.
True.
And I feel like every single player there, whether it's being a stopgap player, whether it's being someone who's working to get into the first team or someone who's a first team ambassador, they all genuinely want success for the club and they want to be a part of that project, whether they're the main man or not. Everyone's putting in the same direction. So I really don't think that they're going to be upset with those who didn't perform in the Carabao Cup or the EFL Cup or whatever they're calling it now.
Yeah, amen. Any name.
And I also don't think they'll necessarily be looking at this Super Cup as, oh, well, I need to take advantage of this because this is the only chance I'll get to play. They know they will play in the Europa League to some extent. The FA Cup comes back. And the FA Cup comes back at a time where we've got some pretty important Premier League fixtures as well. So there will be rotation.
Do you think that he's, do you think he's going to not overly rotate when it comes, or do you think he will overly rotate when it comes to the FA Cup? Because we might be, when that comes back in, I suppose, if he's still in Europa League, he's going to have to use his depth. He's going to have to. You're right, actually. Yeah, you're right, FA Cup.
How can, look, when we got knocked out of that cup against Brighton, in years gone by, I would have been thinking, oh, this is a chance of silverware gone.
Yeah.
And I would have been thinking that because I didn't feel like we could win the Premier League. I didn't feel like we could necessarily go the distance in the Europa League. But now I feel like we can.
Right.
So I'm slightly less upset. I'm not saying that I'm not upset about being knocked out of a cup, but it really didn't bother me that much because we have other priorities, and I think the club will also be prioritising those. And we talk about rotation and the second string, man. Look, if I'm naming second string players, who plays in the middle? Rob Holding most likely, and a first teamer. But Rob Holding comes on at the end of Premier League games. Eddie Nketiah comes on at the end of Premier League games. We've seen Reece Nelson come on in Premier League games.
Fabio Vieira as well.
Exactly, Fabio Vieira coming on in Premier League games. You look at the fullback position on the other side, whether it's Tomiyasu, whether it's Tierney, whether it's Zinni.
Constantly rotated.
They're all there. The only area really is the midfield where we are. That's a pure rotation. But everywhere else, we're talking about the second string, but they are immediately involved in the first team fold. So I don't even really look at it as second string and first string.
Okay, so you see it as one big...
And it's not...
But I think Arteta, to be fair, that seems like how that's what he's portraying it. Yeah, he's portraying it.
That's how City have always looked at it.
Yeah.
You know, would you ever... If Gundogan wasn't starting every game, do you think he'd be sitting there going, I'm a part of the second string?
Yeah, no way.
Hell no.
No, Riyad Mahrez, same thing actually. I can't believe he doesn't always play, but I bet he feels like I'm a big part of the side. And so he should feel like that because he's a quality player.
Exactly. And that, I think, is the mentality that we're instilling in this club now.
Oh, that was nice. I like that. I love having Sheroy on. I swear to God. I absolutely love it.
You're the man that asked the questions, bro.
That's part of my job.
You're the man that asked the questions.
Let's quickly run to, because we spoke about what it would be for the players, how they would feel. Is it a good thing that it's being stopped for the World Cup in this winter period during the months of November and December? As a manager, we've just kind of gone into what we think Mikel Arteta's thinking, and how he's trying to keep everyone on side. What will he be thinking about this World Cup? Will he be thinking, do you know what? A needed break, or would he be frustrated that momentum's such a big thing? And then on top of that, you've got to think of the exterior things. As a manager, I know Mikel Arteta is so meticulous and will think about every scenario in the sense of, if my player goes say if Martinelli goes really far and Jesus with Brazil, how is that going to affect when they return? Good thing, maybe they get to the finals, might get knocked out. Bad thing, do I need to give them extra time because they've gone how would he be thinking as a manager? This is going to be, we can do this together because I'm actually quite invested in this as well. Good thing, the breaks come now, or is he going to be frustrated? Because I know he wants his players to succeed. I know that for a fact in their nations. He mentioned that in the press conference. But
what was his answer? They said, "Who's going to win the World Cup?"
Oh, he said, one of my players.
One of my players.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That answers. That's true. That answers that.
He wants success for his players in every walk of life.
Yeah.
That's why he talks about good things happening to good people. That's why he talks about values. He wants them to succeed internationally. He wants them to smile.
Yeah.
Pep Guardiola is very much the same, by the way. Very much the same. He always says, if a player is going to leave my club, I don't feel any way about it because I want my players to be happy.
Wow.
It's a mentality thing, and they know that breeds success. One. Two, I think Arteta's acutely aware of the fact that most of the players that we have that are going, they're not necessarily starters.
Yeah, that's
Aaron Ramsdale, despite what we may think about his merit of starting,
let's go through it.
Probably doesn't start.
Correct.
Tomiyasu, I think he's been taken as an aspiration. He may not even be fit.
He may not be fit, but if he is fit,
yeah, then he starts.
But probably likely. Like I said, he's come off an injury, so probably likely won't start.
Saliba, touch and go.
Saliba, young centre back from France. They got good centre backs.
I think he definitely gets minutes, but does he start?
No, I don't. This one's a tough one. People let me know in the comments. I don't think he does. I think he should, but how international football, very young, big stage. I don't think he starts. Especially if they get further into the competition.
He could be one of those that grows into the competition and then does cement a starting place.
Like Saka, that's what Saka did in the Euros. People questioned him being selected, and then ended up being like a main player for England.
Not just the Euros, that's in every team he played for.
Yeah.
Even for us.
And won man of the match many a times as well. So big up anyway, because listen, we can talk all day for him. But he starts, by the way.
Yep.
So he'll be a starter. Who else? We've got Partey. He starts.
He starts.
He's definitely starting. Jesus is...
It was touch and go as to whether he'd even be included in the squad. You look at Neymar, you look at Vinicius, and they do favour Richarlison.
They do.
Well.
I was just about to mention him.
I mean, there are so many players. Again, Jesus and Martinelli are players that I think will get minutes, but they're not going to be playing 90 minutes a game.
Yeah,
you know?
Yeah. Okay, so Jesus is touch and go.
Yeah.
I don't. Yeah. Okay, so it was solid, nailed on starters. Bukayo Saka, Partey. Oh, Martinelli. I'll be honest. He's not going to start. He's not out. Matt Turner. I mean, obviously he's second choice goalkeeper, but he will likely start for the USA. Granit Xhaka.
Definitely.
Yep. Captain of obviously Switzerland. He will start. Ben White. I mean, we're doing nailed on. Obviously for us.
He's not a nailed on starter. For me, he should be.
Agreed.
For me, he should be.
For us, for all of us, I'm sure we should be.
For Southgate, he probably isn't. So how many nailed on starters are there that are going to be playing?
So we've got Granit Xhaka. I'm not going to include Matt Turner. So Granit Xhaka, Partey, and Saka.
You can count them
What's
on
that?
one
3?
hand. You can count them on one hand.
That's not good. I mean, it's not that's not good. It's there's still 10 players going, but yeah, I mean, only 3 players.
This comes back to what you were saying about how's the manager going to be looking at this, right?
Yeah.
And if I were him, obviously he knows infinitely more than me, but I'd be looking at it as saying, a lot of those guys, they play for France, Brazil, England, whoever. These are teams that could potentially go the distance.
Yeah.
If you're in and around a team that has success at that level, if you're not a primary contributor, you might be on the outskirts of it, you'll see that success, you're going to come back wanting more. You come back into the Arsenal fold wanting more success. If you have just won the World Cup and you're a primary contributor, you come back with chest.
Oh, you... I can't imagine.
So it's a win-win.
Yeah, I can't imagine how you feel. Yeah, that's true. That's
a win-win for me, mentality-wise.
So even if you're amongst the changing room, it's still a win. Even if you don't get many minutes, but that team goes really far into competition. Yeah, I guess the be-all and end-all is, you go back, you come back wanting more.
Look, my grandma always used to tell me, you are the company you keep. Yeah, and if you're surrounded by winners at the pinnacle of the sport, that is going to rub off on you.
Yeah, 100%.
And we've got so many youngsters in this team that could benefit from being around that. It's a good thing. The physical side of it is risky.
Well, this is going to be my rebuttal to you, because you're talking about obviously the mindset.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Young players having that experience in general, just being around in a World Cup national team is massive for them, and then coming back off the back of wherever they end up, it's still going to be inspiring. It's going to want to push them more. And I remember if you win or you go far, you're going to get a guard of honor when you come back to training or whatnot from your team anyway, because that's what they did. They did it with the women's and whatnot. But like you said, the physical side to it, and I'm going to highlight 2 players, Granit Xhaka and Thomas Partey. Now, both of them highlighted here, they are going to start. They are most important. I mean, Partey, yes. You want to continue this Premier League form, being top of the table. Partey is a big key to that. So, physicality-wise, if he gets injured, there's a problem. Even Granit Xhaka having a season of his life right now, I am worried if he gets injured. I can't believe I'm saying that. I need Xhaka in this side. So, those 2 players will be starting, playing most of the games. As a manager, you have to be considering that. And I know everyone's talking about January, we need strength, and this now plays an effect on that, really, if we're being completely honest. What were you going to say regarding physical-wise?
Yeah, you can get tired, you can get injuries or whatever. But again, this might just be me trying to look at the positives. Of all the players in that list, aside from maybe Tomiyasu and Turner, Xhaka and Partey, no disrespect to these nations, are probably in teams that aren't necessarily going to be going into the back end of this tournament.
True. Well, I don't know, but yeah, I assume so.
On paper. If you're
yeah.
looking at the odds at Ladbrokes right now, or wherever it is, that's probably what it tells you.
Yeah.
At which point, within an hour, you're back with the team in Dubai.
That's a good point.
And you've got 2 of your leaders back in.
Yeah.
So again, not necessarily the end of the world if those above ensure that these players don't get injured.
And that's
a risk that everyone has. Every other team has it.
Yeah, the only thing I'm that's playing on my mind is, apart from Wolves, weirdly, I never see Granit Xhaka really sustain touch wood,
No,
touch
but
wood,
even
touch
that
wood,
was some
touch
sort
wood.
of weird.
Yeah, I think it was an
Yeah,
illness
yeah.
from food, but
Yeah,
you
yeah.
never really see. He will run through walls. He will always be fit. I even remember I always joke about it, like even when he was playing really bad, he would still be available and he'll still be in that team sheet. So regardless, he never gets injured. So that I don't really have much of a worry about. And big up Granit Xhaka. Listen, love you right now. You've been superb, and you probably will feature coming back as well and be a main guy. But Partey I worry about because he's come to Arsenal never having sustained a serious injury and had multiple injuries. And I think that's because of, it's nothing to do with climate or anything, but it's just the change. I think sometimes for players, things can be affected just by change of whether it's the intensity in a league. It can be certain things, just adjustment really. And yes, it's very skeptical, very optimistic, but I do fear for Partey that, just going to the World Cup might be a different level of pressure, a different level of intensity that could re-emerge this injury. So I fear for him, regardless of he might get knocked out early. Partey is, out of everyone on that list, my eyes just go, Thomas Partey, worry. And then it kind of flags up for January. And I know everyone says we need a midfielder, but we do need to really find cover for Thomas Partey because, again, this recurring injury can pop up. Right now, I hope it hasn't and may it continue. But yeah, something I have to highlight there.
I think we've managed that injury a little bit better this year than we did last year as well, right? Because last year, if you remember, we brought him back into crunch games when he was coming back from injury and he had to hobble off the Tottenham one.
And push him back on.
Exactly.
Arteta pushing him back on.
We've managed it a bit better here, and it's not just us sitting there saying that we need a replacement because, I mean, they tried to bring in Luiz and they didn't get him. So they also know they need to address the position.
True.
So it is something that's on the radar of those that make the decisions.
I'm going to read this super chat here from My Inner Turkish. I love this super chat name. I love this. He's funny. Big up, guys. I think Vieira is the type of player who needs quality around. Some fans are harsh on him, but man is still young and far from a game changer. Fabio Vieira then, Sheroy, we are going to kind of get into the big end topic of this live, but let's just quickly just talk on Fabio Vieira because I feel like I've been the one to massively try and defend him. He played it right against Wolves, but there was a game, what game was it before that? I think, it was Brighton. Obviously I didn't get to I only saw highlights because they didn't stream it anywhere, but I heard he was really bad in that game, and from what I saw he didn't have a great game, but there's definitely quality in Fabio Vieira, 100%. Like the passes he finds, the pockets of space he finds, the confidence he has to just take shots on. And I would say I'd liken it to Martin Odegaard, but he's more fearless when it comes to letting the trigger, pulling the trigger. Sorry, he takes shots from outside the box. He does that more than Martin Odegaard. Martin Odegaard's further on in his progression than Fabio Vieira, but there's definitely a quality player in there. It just depends how patient us as fans can be. Do you feel like fan base is now at a stage where we want things like now? I remember speaking to Robbie just a second ago. It's like, we need an instant striker now. I don't want to wait for another project. I need him to be coming in and being the main guy straight away. But that's not how football works. Arteta hasn't gone like that in all of his signings. Do you think with Fabio Vieira, there's a player that we can wait on and should be patient for? Or do you think it's, I've seen enough?
Do you trust the process or not? Look, if I'm looking at, I'd say every player actually under Arteta.
Really?
Every player under Arteta.
Let's go through some.
Has improved, quite tangibly actually. Maybe aside from Partey, who was elite when we brought him in.
This was an argument for many fans when there was in our turmoil and our low points of Arteta. They said to me in fan cam, they said, Cecil, what player has Arteta improved? And every time I mention young players, they were like, they haven't improved him. That's just they kind of came with, that's just a natural progression because they're getting minutes. So are you saying every player now that he's kind of signed and been brought into the Arsenal side has improved? And I do agree. I need to go through them. But many of the signings, definitely from some, have infinitely improved.
Just as illustrative examples, was Ben White the player that he is
100%
now?
not.
Was
He's so much better.
Okay, William Saliba's a bit difficult because he was a very, very good talent.
Here we go, yeah.
Very, very good talent.
And the loans definitely benefited him.
But that's also who sent him on loan for that many seasons.
Good.
So
fair.
who might be responsible for that improvement? Gabriel.
Yes, I mean there's been
Yes,
some
he has
shaky
to iron
moments,
out
but
mistakes, but he's a leader on that pitch. People were crying out for him to be captain. Wasn't he the highest scoring centre back in the league?
He was 5, I believe, 5 goals, 5 or 6 from last season.
Hasn't Kieran Tierney added to his game going forward?
Yes, apart from obviously injuries, nothing to do with Arteta, but improvement-wise.
I don't need to waste time talking about Granit Xhaka's improvement. Everyone sees it.
That's his biggest, by the way. When Arteta leaves the club and has a CV, all he's got to do is go to whatever club he wants to go to and just give him the Granit Xhaka portfolio.
Exactly.
But anyway, but yeah, next.
Martin Odegaard, when he came in on loan, people were a bit undecided, but he did contribute. Now look at him. He's our top scorer.
Oh wow, as I say, yeah. Some people saying we need a goals from midfield. He needs to add to his game. He's like you just mentioned, yeah, top goal scorer, 6 goals, I believe. This season.
Naturally progressed into captain.
Yep.
You can look at Martinelli. A lot of people were saying, well, why isn't he starting Martinelli? He held him back, revved him up, and then let him go.
Yep.
Bukayo Saka right now, one of the bravest young men I've seen in the sport.
He's incredible.
And his ability matches it. I can't say that he's necessarily improved Gabriel Jesus, but he has put him in a position where I think he thrives a bit more.
Yep.
So that's basically our whole team. And I say the same with Fabio Vieira.
But the arguments will be potentially like the ones that fell off, the Cedrics he brought in, obviously the Willians came, and I mean like those players, I guess, are not in the starting 11, so it's not his main focus. But they
even said, look, Cedric improved under Arteta for me. He didn't improve to the heights that we required in that position, which is why we now have alternatives in that position. But
Correct.
He did get better in that position.
Correct.
I had a bit more trust in him when I saw him playing consistently under Arteta, and I feel like the thing is with our style of football now, man, it really is. It used to get criticised for being too rigid, if you remember. People were like, these guys just look like robots.
Yeah.
They
We're
all
too
have to
boring
be
in a certain place and we're going sideways. And why are we continuously playing out the back? We haven't got the players to do it. And yeah, you're right.
But the more you do anything, you learn the system. And then it comes naturally to you. Fabio Vieira needs to learn how to play in Arteta's Arsenal.
Okay.
And he's been recruited because Arteta has seen that he's got what he needs
quality.
to be able to play in the system.
Has the capabilities for it.
You see that with the goal against Brentford. You see that with that little chip assist on the weekend. You know, you've seen that from Fabio Vieira. So I think it will come.
I'm just going to quickly scroll up and find this comment because they mentioned something that I'm going to be moving this show onto, which I believe it's around the Cristiano Ronaldo and it is the Arteta. Here we go. I think I have it here. Sorry, forgive me, people. I should have had this already and prepped for you. But along the lines of, they're talking about Aubameyang and the correlation between him and obviously the Ronaldo situation. Now, that is the big talking topic at the moment. I think if you search anything online regarding sport news, is all around the Ronaldo.
Hold on.
Here we go.
This comment, bro.
Go on.
Shiraz, but I think he knows Sheroy.
Shiraz.
Oracle, well of wisdom, the gangster and the gentleman, Jay Pusher. But
you're right. You're right, bro.
Love.
He's right. No, big up Jay Pusher. Jay Pusher, big up for that because.
Thank you.
Listen, like I said, I love being on the shows with Shiraz. This is our first live, but listen to how he articulates Arsenal is a pleasure for me, especially as an interviewer or as a person, as a presenter as well. So big up, and that's you deserve those flowers, my guy.
No, you're too kind, and the comments are too kind, but it still takes me back when I read this stuff. Man.
I see people even here. Digi Breeze TV says Sheroy is underrated on this channel, and massively so. But let's go into this comment here. Tommy says, does the Ronaldo interview prove Arteta was right to get rid of the distraction like Aubameyang? Now, we're gonna have a conversation. Yeah, sure. You know them man that just they hear something, they're like, here we go. As I said before, listen, the Ronaldo news is everywhere. You can't go anywhere without hearing it or seeing it.
Just gonna sip on my tea like Stormzy.
I'll let Sheroy do that as he's about to drop his dub.
I'm still disappointed.
His diss track. Oh, what a tune, by the way. Big up. So I still listen to that to this day, bro. I need that Stormzy. Still disappointed. Cold. Anyway, I listen to that so much. That's off topic, but love. And he just announced his he's got a show coming up, so I just got tickets for that this morning. But anyway, forget all that. Right, Aubameyang and Ronaldo. Now, obviously, Ronaldo's a gigantuan when it comes to football. Listen, there's that thing, especially in English football and in culture. You're never bigger than the club. Ronaldo, is he an anomaly? I don't know. You can make your decision. You can make your decision on that yourself. But what he's come out and said, it hasn't yet obviously full been released. Everyone's gonna wait and see. And I see a lot of United fans online saying, stop judging before you've seen, obviously the Ronaldo stands, stop judging before you've seen the full interview, blah, blah, it's out tomorrow.
Which is a fair point.
Which is good. Yeah, you got to see the full picture. And I hate when people watch clips and come at us and don't actually watch the whole live or watch the whole video before forming an opinion. But there was enough said for us to discuss and you can take from it and relate it to Arsenal. Because like we said, we had the Aubameyang thing. Again, I don't know the full story of what happened. We know enough. Well, from what I know, I think we know enough of what happened, but Arteta seemed to have made the right decision. Obviously, we saw him play against Chelsea. When we played against Chelsea, we saw what's happening now with Aubameyang and Arteta, and we see how good the team is right now. So, for me, right decision from Arteta, but I don't want to overlook it. I want to delve deep into how much of a big decision it was, how brave it was as a manager, an inexperienced manager. Even in the documentary where Edu and the board kind of went to him and said, "Look, are you sure? Like, is there no way you can fit in Aubameyang? And Arteta said no. Like, he didn't even want to see him in the canteen. That they won't talk to each other. Like, those sort of things are big statements, big decisions from, again, an experienced manager that knows what he wants, and a risk, really, because he was a fan favourite. The players loved him. To then make that decision, Sheroy, for you, how big of a decision was that for Arteta, and how much flowers you have to give for that decision, considering what you're seeing now with Ronaldo and Ten Hag and what's going on over at Man United?
I won't speak on Man United too much because this is an Arsenal fan channel. I'm an Arsenal fan. Their business is their business. But what I will say is, under Eric Ten Hag, I think they've tangibly improved.
Mm-hmm.
I think that there is a process, and you can see Ten Hag's way of football. I think that day, Garnacho, a wonderful prospect, scored a brilliant goal. They showed character. They won that game. Credit to them. Ronaldo instead.
KG, just quickly, United, KG said, we were just buzzing off our wing, climbing back, and he just came with a sledgehammer. And I was like, there is parallels between Arsenal and that, though, because we were going through a rebuild, and when Aubameyang was out the side, listen, I love Aubameyang, so but I'm a fan. But when he was out the side, the team improved. Yes, we didn't hit top 4, but when Lacazette came in and they talked about him bringing in other players, the team improved without Aubameyang in the side. Similar to Ronaldo not being inside for United.
After they lost to Brentford, I think it was, they dropped Ronaldo and Maguire, and they then go on a run.
Yeah.
So my point there is, maybe it was foreseeable that he would not have been happy being a fringe player. Mm-hmm. I think Eric Ten Hag would have known that he wasn't going to be his go-to man. Maybe they could have terminated the contract at that point in the summer to avoid this situation. Mm-hmm. Enough said about Manchester United. Mm-hmm. Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang, when he signed that new contract for us, I was quite literally begging for him to sign that.
Yeah, I remember signing the thing and all the waiting.
He was our talisman. When he put up that little timer, I was like, just sign it.
I was there with you, bro. Trust me, I hear it. I was scratching, itching for him to sign it.
But then Arteta realised that whole strategy, even with bringing in players like Willian and slightly more experienced players, he realised it didn't work. The whole club had to shift in strategy. Mm-hmm. And to do that, he had to have players that, one, want to stay and want to grow with him, want to play his way, and want to work. He didn't see that in Aubameyang, right? Yeah. And I didn't understand necessarily what sort of division Aubameyang would cause in the dressing room. There was one interaction in the all or nothing thing, where Arteta was sort of praising the team or whatever, and Aubameyang starts a song about we're going to get a day off. Along those lines, right?
Yep, I remember. Yep.
And Arteta was smiling, but it was a painted smile. It wasn't a, I find that funny. It was a, you're the captain, I'm the manager, I'm not talking about a day off, so you shouldn't.
Yeah.
One. I kind of let that go. Then, I know Aubameyang didn't know that this video was being recorded, but this video comes out where he's saying, look, Arteta doesn't really know how to manage players of my ilk or big name players, and he's got a bunch of yes men youngsters around him. One, you're speaking about your old teammates that way. You express love for this team. You know, you're always talking about your little chili and all. Yeah. And you have to understand why what you're saying is condescending and derogatory about all of these players that you consider to be friends, and that is not something that a leader should be saying on or off camera, in my opinion.
Agreed.
And two, if he feels as though the manager doesn't know how to manage him, it's never going to work.
Yeah.
Mesut Ozil probably felt the same. Guendouzi probably felt the same.
Yeah.
I can go through a number of these names. Not necessarily big players in the sense of Guendouzi, but big egos, big personalities, whatever it is. I don't miss any of them.
And
I don't miss a single... No indictment, don't get me wrong. Mesut Ozil, when he signed it, was one of the best transfer days of my life. Guendouzi, I saw a lot of promise with. Aubameyang, I just said, I love the guy. I had the Aubameyang 14. I thought he'd have a statue outside the club at some point.
Yeah, so I remember saying, I thought he was going to live up to he wanted to live up to Henry's legacy.
But Arteta's done it his way. He's a man who believes in himself. He's a man who believes that his way is the right way. And I was on a supporters club once, and I said, Arteta strikes me as a man that has an ego. I got a lot of heat for that, but I didn't mean ego in a bad way. Ego is not necessarily a bad word.
No, it's not.
Sometimes to be at the pinnacle of any sport, does Tyson Fury have an ego?
Yes, of course
he's the world heavyweight champion.
Yeah, of course he does.
You know, to be the best. Does Pep Guardiola have an ego?
Yes.
Yes, but he's the best at what he does.
Many players have egos, and they thrive off it. They're the best players have. And I mean, and it's not in a bad way, ego in the sense of they have the confidence to do outlandish things and take risks and take shots and stuff. Nowadays in academies, that's what they look for. Players, yes, they have ability, but they have the ego, and not in a negative way, but in a positive way, to say, I can take on and and be the man I want to be in this game. So yeah, no, that's a very nice point, and I agree with you there, Sheroy. I got a comment here from Arjun says Sheroy signed a ting, very fitting as well.
In the words of Martinelli, just need a pen
Just
and
need a pen and paper.
Need something to sign.
And then on top of this, Grumpy Doctor here with a comment says, how great is it that we're now the blueprint of rebuilding a team? And I keep going on when I speak to fans, other fans and Arsenal fans, I say that is what I take joy from as an Arsenal fan. Like, we're seen as a blueprint. The board giving Arteta the time when we came from a culture of managers that get sacked if you don't hit targets straight away. Now giving a manager time to actually implement their philosophy and what they want to do, it's starting to be seen throughout the Premier League, which I love to see. Of course, you got the likes of Pep and Klopp that have spent time in their roles, but Arteta kept time in his role without having the success of these managers. So listen, you have to take your hat off to the board and what they're doing as well, and big up Arteta. But what he done making that decision is superb. And I don't want to say it's cheeky because I have a lot of respect for Aubameyang, but like, yes, what he said in that Age Allers video that even he didn't know was being recorded was cheeky, because yes, he doesn't know how to manage players like him, but Ronaldo's kind of saying that. But Ronaldo, I don't want to justify it, but Ronaldo is Ronaldo. Aubameyang might be thinking he's going to hit those heights, but he wasn't Ronaldo. So I'm not justifying what Ronaldo said because I don't agree with it, but there's levels to, you know, being like, you can't handle a player of this ilk. What he said about Ralph Rangnick not being a coach, I think it's disrespect. But like, there's a difference to that than Aubameyang being like, yeah, you can't handle players like me. But it then poses the question, Sheroy, and we kind of lead on to this sense. Arteta's gone with this philosophy and this way of thinking of, you know, I want players that are maybe young, players that, you know, buy into what I believe. And I remember Oneni saying that when they saw what he did with Aubameyang, they're now scared. They are scared, and rightly so. That's a manager now respected by his players, and I think fear can be looked at again very wrong, but I actually think has positives sometimes when it comes to, especially as a young manager, a new manager, trying new philosophies. If you're scared of him, you respect what he has to say. Going forward, how does this bode though in this second half of the season when it comes to the January window that people want the likes of Wilfried Zaha? I think he's a big personality. Can Arteta bring in a player that will sustain this run in the second half of the season, but not be a big personality? Do you trust him to bring in a young talent that, you know, can keep us where we're at? Yeah. Yeah?
Yeah, I mean, look, you'll know this as well, because I'm sure you've spoken to many scouts with what you do for talent transfer. Mm-hmm. I mean, people get research on the type of players they bring in, and Correct. It isn't just distance covered. Mm-hmm. It's what's this person's attendance like? What's their nutrition like? Correct. What are they like when things don't go their way? How often do they get self-inflicted red cards? A number of things that people look at. Yeah. You know, and that will be, I think, the first thing that Arteta and Edu want to know. Yeah. You can bring in a big personality. A big personality does not have to be a divisive, destructive personality. They're not the same thing. They're not the same thing. And sadly, I think what Aubameyang maybe didn't get when he was saying that to whoever he was speaking to was, it wasn't just because you were a big personality. It was because there was something that was going on with your chemistry in that dressing room that ended up hindering the team. Yeah. And that is a very different thing to just being a big personality. And again, they're not all kids that Arteta's managing now. Thomas Partey is not a child. Granit Xhaka is not a child. He's a grown man. Granit Xhaka is, you know, basically my age. Yeah. Grown-ass man. Yeah? So he's not just managing kids. Yeah. And who can say that Granit Xhaka doesn't have a big personality? That's Granit true. Xhaka's got a massive personality. He does. And he's learned how to manage him pretty damn well, in my opinion. Better than any manager I've seen before him. That's a good point. So who's to say that he can't do it with others? Yeah, it's very true. It's a good point. Granit Xhaka, he definitely has a big personality, 100%. And I suppose the professionalism goes alongside that. He's definitely a model professional. I think Arteta mentions it all the time. But yeah, he's definitely an infectious character within the dressing room. You see all the players gathered to him. You see him always call the huddles after the goals and dictating what happens next and whatnot. So clearly, but it's interesting. It's very interesting what Arteta has done with this situation. I always have to look at going forward, because can we continue getting these shrewd players, I call them, players that no one's really screaming that they want, but Arteta's bringing them in. We haven't really heard of them, but they fit the system perfectly, and they're what he wants. Are we happy as that? I'm happy now. I am. I'll be honest. I took some time to convert in. I'll be honest. I saw Ben White. I saw 50 million. I thought, what the Ross is this brother doing? I saw Ramsdale. I saw at first 30 to 40 million. I didn't see obviously he came for less than that. He came from about 25, 24. But the numbers I saw at first, and I was like, this is bonkers. But like you mentioned, when it comes to
a manager wanting a player, and I think Arteta's very, like I said, pedantic and he wants every fine detail known, and I think he goes more to the character of the player before he goes to the ability. And then you'll get reports of how he learns. You'll go to his academy days, and you can get all that, especially looking for players. I know this because, like you said, I work at clubs and speak with clubs, and they look for that as well now, as much as it is, talent and ability. But you get to a level when you're in a system for so long where everyone has ability. So what do you offer that can help the team? And that's what I think Arteta, you're right, I think he goes for. But can it maintain? Can that maintain in January? Because I know fans keep saying, give me the big signing. Give me the sign that's going to get me excited. The Ivan Tonys, the Wilfried Zaha's. Robbie, we always argue, he says, we need Wilfried Zaha. But I'm like, is he the profile player Arteta wants though? Let's be real. Yes, I think he will do infinite things for Arsenal and be the right signing when it comes to ability. And he knows the Premier League, and ambition-wise, he want to play in Europe. But I don't know if he's an Arteta player.
But I get all of that. But at the beginning of the Arteta era and going through it, there were times where I was sitting there going, bruv, we need 8 or 9.
Yeah.
Now we're saying we need 1 or 2. Maybe 3. I'm not sitting there crying out for a world-level centre-back. I'm not sitting there saying, we really need to address the full-back position. I'm not sitting there saying, oh, you know what, man, we don't have a striker that contributes enough to the team.
Yeah.
I'm not sitting there saying, well, right wing and left wing, we've got one wing covered but not the other. We need depth in a handful of positions.
Yeah.
And we had a window where we had to spend 150 million on 5 or 6. Now we're approaching that territory, which is what teams like Man City and all these other clubs do, where you spend 150 mil, but you spend it on 1 or 2.
Yeah.
And that is where the real quality comes through. And that's why I think we're being linked with players like Mudryk. There'll be a lot of teams after him.
Yeah,
and they want about 65 million euros from what I've heard.
Yeah.
That's more. That would make him our second most expensive player after Pepe, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
But I think they're going to pull the trigger on that because he's the caliber of player that we need to bring in. So I'm really excited to see what profile of player he brings in. But
and learn from last season. Do you think the mistake of not strengthening in January? Do you think that's why they were also going to pull the trigger? Does that have any factor to it, or do you think, nah?
Yeah, it would. Last season in January, we did what we had to do to get rid of players.
Yep.
I think there was maybe an element of complacency and an element of chance saying, you know what, we might be able to get top 4. But even if we don't get top 4 this year, it's not the end of the world because we didn't think we were on course for it anyway.
Yeah.
We have a plan, we're sticking to it.
Yeah.
So if you look at his progression, first full season in charge, 8th. Second full season in charge, top 4 race, 5th.
Yeah.
Third full season in charge, Christmas, top of the league, 5 points clear. You can't tell me that's not progression.
Facts.
You can't tell me that's not progression. So, but I think because of the carrot at the end of this road is the Premier League.
Yep.
They'll probably go that extra mile.
100%. Now I did want to end the show a little bit early, but I have more. So quickly, I saw someone comment about me saying I've got a T-shirt that says we've won the league already. I haven't got that. I've printed a T-shirt that has the Premier League table on at the moment that I'm gonna. For the month of the World Cup, you might not see me. You might see me in it, you might not. But I'm just enjoying the moment. But you won't see it after the World Cup because obviously things change. But that's just a shameless fan I can be at times. And I want to just mention this. I'm sure I want to end on this. I want to read this super chat quickly. Joshua Lovelace says, "Bring forward the summer budget as I want to see Tielemans, Danilo, Mudryk, and to show we are serious. And then left centre back, right back in summer, and I'll be happy."
Who's to say that isn't already part of the January budget? If you're looking at Danilo in that position, if you're looking at Mudryk in that position, if you're looking at Tielemans in that position, we were looking at players like Luiz, Rafinha, Neto. They were positions that they wanted to address last summer, which means they probably had the funds to do it last summer. They just couldn't get those over the line. What's to say that we can't get these guys in January now?
Yeah, because they saved from it. They still have those funds really. So
Tielemans out of contract in the summer. You go to Leicester and say, look, you're not going to get anything from him now. Take a little drink.
Agreed. I mean, that's a great point. And I want to, like I mentioned, I do want to end with, and there's some good names there. There's some good names on that list. And I have to mention, obviously, we still got Europa League and the FA Cup in the season coming in the new year. So we do have to strengthen. It's not just the league. I think everyone focuses on the league and where we're at. And we have to keep continuing this intense pressure on the other clubs. But there's also cups that if we do start to drop in the league, as a fan for myself, I'll feel justified if we're going far in Europa League, we're getting to the finals, or we're still having a long run in the FA Cup for me personally. So that's something we need to mention. Now, to finish up, I want to do this. I love doing this question. I've done it with everyone so far. What would it mean for Arsenal if we won the Premier League this season? Like, for you as a fan, just look at it holistically in a sense of what it means for the area, yourself as a fan, the younger generation that, you know, have stopped supporting Arsenal because there's the City's about, there's the Liverpool's been dominating for so long, and City. The fact that, which never gets mentioned, the age of the players. We have the youngest team still. Yes, of course, it got mentioned last season. Every week, it's a young team, it's a young team, it's a young team. I don't hear that anymore, but now I want to give them more credit because it's a young team and where we're at and the pressure they're under, and they're ticking every box. What does it mean, Troy? And it's a big if. I know it's early, but just the feeling of what it could do for Arsenal if we won the league.
I mean, for me personally, I'd probably cry.
I probably will as well.
That's neither here nor there. But one thing it would be us re-announcing ourselves at the pinnacle of world football.
There we go.
We haven't been there for a very long time.
Yep.
We were there. We were the team that everyone wanted to play for at one point. Mm-hmm. And in fact, we're still attracting talent because of those players.
Yeah.
There are a lot of people that still say I came here because of Thierry Henry. It's been a very long time since Thierry Henry played for us.
I would still say that if I was right now playing, but yeah.
And it would be an example of the Kroenkes living up to their promise, because we moved into this stadium to hit those heights. Yeah. And that would be the moment that we've hit them. But two, for the way that football operates, it would be, well, you don't necessarily need to hire and fire managers. You don't need to bring in managers with a wealth of experience and people who have won things left, right and centre. You don't need to buy £150 million players left, right and centre, because you can invest in a squad and keep them together and let them grow together. And although it's not instant success, it would vindicate that process at a level that we have not seen in this modern era of football, because everything has been about hire, fire, spend money, win. Right. This would shift that, and I think you'd get a lot of other clubs saying, you know what, not only is that a more economical model, but it's brought them success. Yeah. So why don't we go down that route?
Is it more inspiring? So when we speak about Thierry Henry, people want to play for the club because of him, but in an inspiring sense of, if we won the league, the players would be thinking, look at what he's done with that young team. Look what Bukayo Saka is now. I want to have that. Like, listen, of course it's not a Thierry Henry level, but it's like that. You can take heed in that. You can think that could be me. They've won the Premier League at such a young age. Is that another thing as well?
Definitely, man.
It's mad, isn't it? So I get as we're not there. But
no. We're daring to dream, though. We're daring to dream.
Oh, but yeah, no. I like to ask people that I speak with, like, what would it mean for you as a fan, and just the dynamic of Arsenal if it happened.
Or if you asked me that 2 years ago, I would have said, I just want to be in like a top 4 race. I just want to go on a journey with this club. I want to have something to play for come February. And now look at where we are.
Look at where we are. Well, listen, I want to leave it at that, because I could end the stream on a nice thought of what if. But right now, again, we're not getting carried away. It's just something to look at. Obviously, the position we are 5 points clear at the top. Winter break now. Pretty sad, but we will be returning back as always with all the content. And throughout the World Cup, you'll see us as well. AFTV will be going live, giving you all the up-to-date news. Special guests as well coming on. DR Sports will be doing watch-alongs to all the World Cup games. As always, they've been consistent, whether it's the Women's Euros, whether it's the Euros, and whether it's the Men's World Cup. They are streaming every game with fans and guests, so make sure you tune into that. And tune into AFTV as usual. Plenty of content coming your way. There's a metaverse being built for AFTV. Come and join, speak with Robbie. It's incredible. We trialed it yesterday. Really good fun. And also on DR, they have Habbo Hotel as well. We can join interactively as well and get involved and speak with Robbie there. It's crazy. This new generation of stuff is just beyond me, and I'm young. But make sure you check out all the stuff.
I want to make a point of saying this whilst I'm on stream with you, man. I'd had no idea how hard you individually work until I came on this channel and I saw the amount of effort you put in behind the scenes, bro.
I appreciate that, man.
People in the comments, you won't know it until you see it behind the scenes. The stuff this guy does to build relationships, the way he interacts with fans, and the way he treats everyone in the studio. Got to give him his flowers, man. He's a massive, massive contributor to this channel.
Yeah, that means a lot, Shory.
It's the truth, bro.
And it's a pleasure always having you. Like I said, I love, just being able to be with you on the show, but no, I appreciate that. Yeah, there's a lot. It's for the fans. This is what it's about. It's what AFTV is, and we're trying to just, grow, build, and give you all the access and everything we can, and it means a lot to me. So appreciate that. As much as it may get unseen, until you're here and you see what everyone's doing, it's mad. But big up everyone. Like the video if you like the video, and we'll be back. I'll be back again tomorrow, I believe. Oh! No, I'm sorry, we're not. We're on way to the content awards. So there will be no live tomorrow, but there'll be content at 5 p.m. So make sure you watch it.
Can people still vote for that?
I think so. Potentially, it must be up until the vote date.
If you can vote, you know what to do. Yeah, you know what to do.
Big up, and big up Sheroy. It's always a pleasure.
Oh man, thank you, bro.
Enjoy the rest of your day, people. We out. Peace.